We've got the ultimate rock and roll team up. I am Matt Wardlaw. I've got Bryan Rolli with me, but I'm not talking about us, Bryan. The bands behind two of our favorite records of 2021 are hitting the road together in 2022. We've got Wolfgang Van Halen of Mammoth WVH and Marc LaBelle of Dirty Honey joining us. Wolf, how's it going, man?
Doing really good, man. How are you?
Real good, real good. And Marc, welcome to it. Thanks for taking some time to talk music with the two of us. And Marc, I'm going to start with you. These two bands spent time out on the road opening up for two of the biggest tours of the summer. And for you guys, you were out opening up for the Black Crowes on the Shake Your Moneymaker anniversary run. So besides your band being on stage every night, what's kind of your favorite story from that run?
God, there's a lot of them. The brothers were so cool to us, so we got to, what my favorite story would be, actually, it's pretty easy now that I think about it. I told Rich early on, he knows how big of an Aerosmith fan I was. And, we bonded over that. And he liked to tell me how Mr. Crow's Garden, way before they were the Black Crowes, would play a tune off Toys in the Attic called No More, No More. And the last night of the tour in Philly, my phone started blowing up and Rich was like hitting me up to come on stage. He's like, "We learned No More, No More. We want you to come sing for a little bit." So I got to do that with them, and a bunch of people recorded it on video. It was pretty hilarious, but that was a special moment for me, being such a Crowes fan too, growing up, to bring those two musical, influences together, Aerosmith and the Black Crowes, which are two of my favorites. And to play an Aerosmith song with them was awesome. So
I know you guys were doing Last Child in your set too, so I guess you got a double dose of Aerosmith
yeah,
tonight, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's it's fun. I think that was actually our agent. Actually, Wolf and I have the same agent, Ken. He after the first show was like, we didn't do Last Child in the first show, and he was like, I think you could do that to sort of connect with this audience that is obviously a rock and roll familiar audience. And we threw it into the set the second night, and it really was a turning point of the show every single night from that moment on.
What sort of like good hang time, what sort of meaningful hang time did you get with the Crowes?
I mean, just dinners all the time, going out. We had a huge community meal with the crew and everybody after the show at Jones Beach back in New York City. And Chris is full of infinite wisdom that nobody's parents would bestow it upon their children, but he's just full of great anecdotes about life. He's a full-on rock star, and still is, and lives the life, and does not care if he would always like to say, I'll take this Ferrari that is the Black Crowes or any of my projects, and I'll fucking crash it right into the wall and burn it to the ground. I don't give a shit. All my favorite bands did that. So I don't know if we can swear on here, but
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And Wolfgang, so meanwhile, Mammoth WVH shares the stage for its very first tour, no less, in stadiums with Guns N' Roses, No Pressure. So give us kind of the post-game report on how you look back on the entire summer and fall tour dates as it played out, with, I guess, hindsight and a few steps away from that experience.
I was way more nervous for the two club shows we did before the first show in Hershey, Pennsylvania with Guns, just because it was, the very first thing. Ask any one of the Mammoth guys in the band. In Lawrence, Kansas, I was just sitting in the dressing room, just sort of hyperventilating, trying to figure out how to get through. And at a certain point, you just kind of do it, and having done the first two shows, and then it kind of warmed up well for the first Guns show.
I mean, shoot, I don't know if playing arenas and stadiums ever gets easy per se, but you certainly had enough experience doing that for half your life. So I imagine that feels at least kind of like a familiar environment for you to be back in.
Yeah, it was weird. It almost felt slightly more comfortable when the stadiums were just ridiculous. I'd never played a stadium in my life. Yeah. But the arenas is honestly, that's where I've played the most shows in my life, because Van Halen was pretty much all arenas the entire time I was there. So it was almost like this comfort when we were playing in those rooms that I knew I had actually played in before with Van Halen. So it was I think it allowed me to get a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, a nice homecoming of sorts, but in a bit of a different context now that
Yeah,
you're.
no, it was weird to be rolling up to a building and be like, hey, I think I was here 5 years ago.
Now, Josh Todd from Buck Cherry told a story recently about when those guys opened for Guns N' Roses. They didn't really see Axel for most of the run, and then at the end of it, he like asks to see everybody in the band, and then he like surprises them with an iPad for each person in the band. It sounds like everybody who encounters Axel on the road, like they all have these stories about how he can be kind of like on one hand reclusive and then wildly generous. So I'm wondering if you've got any, cool stories about some one-on-one time with Axel that you have from this summer.
Yeah, there wasn't many times, but when we did see him, it was always really, really fun. Like the very first night, I think it was after MetLife. Uh, uh, we were all just kind of hanging out outside our bus, and it was all around the same. It was like the whole bus area, and one by one, Duff walked by, and then Slash walked by, and then Frank and Richard and Melissa, and then at the end of the night, um, Axel finally walked up, and it was very like nerve wracking. It was like, okay, I think Axel's coming up. Okay, so everybody, be on your best behavior and be nice. And he was like so just affable, just like so kind, and like he gave me like I was like, hi, Mr. Rose, and I like put out my hand, and he like brought me in for a hug and everything, and he talked about how much he liked the Don't Back Down video, which was crazy just to think that he had even watched it.
Sick video, by the way.
Thanks. And oh, I can't have that.
The Wolfgang hotline's going off as we speak.
Yeah, sorry.
It was Axel, actually.
Yeah. And he basically there was another, God, what was the other story where I can't really remember. I mean, but basically
Las Vegas.
The tour ended with them inviting me up to play Paradise City for the last two shows, which was ridiculous. that was definitely one of the highlights of the whole thing.
Yeah, that had to be pretty insane. Like that's a song you've heard all your life. Like what's it like to be on stage playing through that with the band?
It was crazy because we only did one sound check before doing it. So it's like the second I knew they wanted me to, it was the only thing I did. Like on any free time, it was like, I'm just gonna sit here and play Paradise City over and over. Everybody on the bus was like, really, you're still playing? It's like, you got it. And it's like, no, dude, it has to literally, I need to do like every little nuance that Izzy plays on the track. Like I had every single little nuance and every little fill he did in between perfectly. Yeah, we did it once, and then they wanted me to sing, and I didn't realize. So I ended up doing the high harmony that they realized they didn't have in it, and Duff was like, "Oh yeah, there's a harmony there." So it was it felt really good because they were really happy, and I don't know, it went way better than my brain thought it was going to.
Marc, you mentioned the Don't Back Down video, and come on, man, how perfectly does that video epitomize the experience of being in a band?
Yes, very, very much so. Waiting on the drummer, right?
Yeah, that's what cracked me up was like there's always the one guy in the band, and often it is the drummer, but also like when they finish like running through the take and producer says, that was great, come on in here. Meanwhile, his assistant's, he's going to his assistant, can we do anything with that? Can we fix that? So I just thought it was a pretty cool like approximation of the entire experience.
Yeah, and we it's usually me that's late probably because I live the furthest from the rehearsal studio, but yeah, Corey is usually the one that wants to go in and fix things, in Pro Tools or whatever, and that's kind of when we're all like, but he's usually pretty tasteful about it.
So here's one for both of you, and that just is like, what lessons do you think you guys learned over the summer that you would apply to this tour coming up? Marc, I guess I'll kind of start with you for your thoughts on that.
I mean, the number one thing for me, and this is just a motto about life as a musician, is just be great every night and do your best every night, because people are spending their hard-earned cash to see you not suck. And even more than not suck, be amazing. Like, people don't have time for mediocre anymore. And if you are mediocre, then they're going to trash you everywhere. But if you're great, they're going to tell you, and they're going to tell all their friends that you're great. And, you know, from touring with guys like Slash, and Miles Kennedy and the Black Crowes, like, they bring it every single night, and it's really impressive to see that. And it's something, you know, I want to take into my older age, 30 years from now. Hopefully we're still doing this, and hopefully we're still great at it. I think that's important. And, that's the only thing you can really do as a musician, is leave a legacy of great songs, but also great performances.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That took the words out of my mouth. I think, when as a musician, you kind of, I'm cynically go like, oh, we're playing these songs over and over and over again. And personally, like I've listened to this music so much for years before anybody has even heard it. So it's like, I'm sick of it before it was even released, but the important thing to keep into perspective is that when you're playing every night, it's guaranteed somebody's first time seeing that. And even though it's your 500th time playing it, you have to make it like it's the first time. So that really just kind of rolls off what Marc said. It's just, you really need to give your all. I think something I can improve on is I need to stop doubting myself so much. I'm way too hard on myself. And like, I feel like every single performance is awful, but then you see people going like, oh man, that was great. So it's like, okay, I guess that was good. So I just need to just keep doing what I'm doing.
There is something that changes over time too, as you perform. You've obviously done more than, I think the number that they say is like 100 shows. Obviously we've both done way more than that at this point, but doing that charity event that I did the other night, I was playing acoustic guitar and singing with another guitar player. And I never play and sing like you do. But I was just so down on myself after it. I was like, I sucked, wasn't good. And then I went back and I saw some video that people were posting, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good actually. So yeah, I think everybody feels that way from time to time.
Oh yeah.
I feel like one of the things that happens as you play longer, it's like, when you're first starting out as a band, maybe a bad night, you're playing at like 50% of your best. But I think eventually your bad nights become like 80 or 85% of your best.
Totally.
So at a certain point, it's like, you never want to go on autopilot, but even when you're not feeling, tip top shape, you're still able to put on a good show for people, which is just the benefit of getting those reps in, especially on stages like you guys were playing.
Yeah, it's like, is it the 10,000 hour rule or the 100,000 hour rule or whatever? When you put the time in, that's why, I constantly frustrate management that like before tours, like it's like I want to at least rehearse for a month. Like at the very, like I don't want to just like fly in, rehearse for a couple of days and go on tour. It's like I want us to be so bored of the music that it's ingrained in us, so that we can do better. That's how it was. I guess that's what was instilled in me with Van Halen, is that we would literally, even when we weren't touring, we were playing all the time, every day. And I think that just, at a certain point, the numbers stack up and they're always in your favor.
That's great. For both of you, I'm curious, what are the pros and cons of playing these huge venues, stadiums, amphitheaters, arenas, versus playing clubs and theaters?
Have you done theaters yet, Wolf?
That's probably the I mean, a lot of firsts, at least for Mammoth, are the places that we're going to be playing in. Yeah. January.
They're honestly my favorite ones. They're intimate enough where you can see literally the faces of everybody from the front to the back. And a lot of the times there's a loge level that's seated, but for the most part it's standing room only, and it's kind of slanted down towards the stage so everybody can actually see. But because you're standing and you're forced to stand, you are really into the atmosphere, and I definitely feed off that energy the most. Clubs are great too, I think. Yeah, but we've done some arenas that were pretty fun too. I don't know. They're all a little different, but I've definitely felt the most comfortable in the theater and felt the most amped up but also like the sound is pretty consistent, and it just feels really good to me. That's like definitely my sweet spot.
Yeah, that's something I will say is that while stadiums are probably like the craziest, like holy shit kind of places, they sound awful. It's just way too good.
Yeah.
It's not good for anybody. I feel like arenas are sort of like the picture perfect big venue for music. But yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like it doesn't matter where you put us. It's fun to play in every. It's fun to play for 2 people. It's fun to play for 50,000 people. I think as long as people are there to have fun, and that's all that really matters.
Are clubs a mixed bag? Like, what sort of consistency is there, would you two say?
None. None at all. It's it's totally a crapshoot, but they're always usually fun if they're small and intimate. And they're full of people that are there to see you play. There's obviously going to be an excitement in the room, but I think more than anything, just having a passion for playing is going to ensure that the artists have a good time. I'll go play at the Basement Tavern on Main Street right now. I don't care if it's a club or a theater or a stadium. I just like playing,
Do you guys use wedges on stage for monitors, or are you guys all using in-ears?
I use ears.
Okay.
I use ears too, but the band is on wedges.
Yeah. So there's definitely inconsistency at the club level then.
Oh yeah.
At some point, you might as well just be listening to like the towers above you that are going out into the crowd more so than the monitor.
Oh yeah, I specifically, like during rehearsals, I'll train with like a shitty mix, or like if my battery goes out, I'll just let it stay out for the rest of rehearsal and just act as if like, oh shit, I'm in a horrible. It's like training almost, and it's like is I found that literally, and it happened a couple times on tours, that if my ears go out, with my ears, or if my battery pack goes out, if I have my ears in, as long as I can hear my voice, I've practiced so much with the parts I'm playing on guitar, I don't even hear it. As long as I can hear my voice and hear that, I'm good.
Yeah, it's like your voice, and if the kick drum is shaking you to your core, then
oh, Garrett's kit is always so fucking loud, so you definitely hear it.
It's funny. That's pretty much all. I have like just a little bit of guitars in my ear and a lot of my voice, obviously, but that's all I care about too. There's enough stage volume to,
Yeah, it's literally shaking the stage. The subs are usually like underneath or right by, so it's like I can feel it.
So final couple things here, one for each of you. Marc, I want to say you've got a track on the upcoming Leslie West tribute record, you and Slash running through Mountains, Mississippi Queen. And we haven't heard that yet, but that must be pretty great.
That's awesome.
It's cool. Obviously I love Leslie West. I'm a big Howard Stern fan, and he was like a regular on the show for a long time. And heard Wolf on Howard. Very, very jealous, but also very happy for you to have done that. That's like total dream of mine.
That was actually a year ago today, which is crazy to think about.
Was it? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, I love him, and Leslie was always on there doing interesting stuff. So I'd known about him from, way early on, like Guitar Hero. That was like a staple Guitar Hero song. And then, diving into his catalog is a whole other bag of worms. But yeah, that song is obviously a classic. Slash plays it great. I like to think that I sang it okay, and we had a couple of great people on it. But I wish we had been able to get into the studio together and do it. I know that's what he would have preferred as well, but we were in the middle of COVID, and we kind of all did it remotely. So, but it came out great. I'm very, very proud of it.
Yeah, Wolf, this is just a bonus, but I'm sure that you probably heard some Mountain at some point. Like, I think that like way back, if you look back in the 70s, I think there was some Mountain in the set list there. So I'm guessing some.
Oh yeah,
some Mountain was in the household.
In between songs, more often than not, we would jam and play that all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Howard Stern appearance a year ago today, and that's something that I saw that, like, as Bryan and I were just about to come on and do this, you posted on Facebook that today being the 1-year anniversary of the release of Distance. And man, how crazy is it, everything that has happened for you and this band here in the past year?
Oh, I couldn't have imagined it. I was just like I said in the post. It's like it really marks this huge change and of a chapter in my life. figuring out how to operate without Pop in my life anymore. Moving forward with Mammoth for the first time, this will always be a really I think emotional or just kind of reflective period of time for me. I think November is kind of always going to just be like this now.
That makes sense. Yeah. So final thing for you both, and that just is like, what's ahead for you guys as you look towards 2022 besides this tour? Like,
I was going to say a fucking kick-ass tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, we're going to Europe obviously after this for the first time. I would imagine you're doing something like that too, right?
Yeah, we're going to be with the Scorpions.
Scorpions, yeah.
Yeah.
June or July. I can't remember what the date.
Yeah, we're weaving in and out of that as well. We're doing some shows with them, and then some Guns dates and stuff, I think.
Sick.
I don't know if this is announced yet, so maybe we don't talk about it too much, but we're going to Europe for sure. And hopefully, like, we were supposed to do Australia and Japan before COVID, but that happened literally as lockdown was happening. And hopefully South America as well. So,
all right, you guys, absolute final thing, but since you mentioned it, I flaked, but I just talked to Klaus and Matthias last week. How crazy is that you guys are both going to get to log some stage time with the Scorpions?
Oh, dude, it's amazing. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and in Europe too, it's totally kick-ass.
It's gonna be nuts, dude.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, the Young Guns tour kicking off in January, and everybody, we're all looking forward to it. So thank you both for the time today. We had a lot of time chatting, a lot of fun chatting here.
Yeah, great time, man.
A lot of fun. Nobody's looking more forward to it than us. So